An investigation involving the Colorado Secretary of State's office. The DA's office says it has received 2 affidavits alleging election laws were violated. As we've reported, hundreds of voting systems passwords were leaked on the Secretary of State's website. That leak included passwords to El Paso County election equipment.
All right, happy Tuesday, folks. Another day closer to a second Donald Trump presidency. Before we get into this, I can just tell you my voice is shot. I took a COVID test. It's negative. I spent 15 years on the trading floor, open outcry yelling and buying and selling natural gas and crude oil. My vocal cords are severely damaged, and I'll do this as best I can. Anyway, I find it hysterical how the truth continues to trickle out in the aftermath of Trump's landslide victory. I thought there were no problems with our elections. Remember that? What's laughable is that we broke down the Griswold situation a while ago right here on this show. She committed a Class 5 felony and needs to face a criminal probe. Thank God Trump's team is beginning to form. The president is surrounding himself with a lineup of superstars, which leads me right to today's rapid reactions. That's right, folks. Donald Trump is back like he never left and fearlessly sending waves throughout the political space. We were told to expect a super team if Trump got back into office. And guess what? The core of that super team, that unit, is beginning to take shape with every announced cabinet member. The Democrat the machine complains about it. Doesn't matter who the pick is or what they'll be in charge of. The Democrats know nothing else. The beauty about all of this is that their complaints no longer matter. Trump now has the House, the Senate, the White House, a supermajority in the voting. He won every swing state. He even won the popular vote. Incredible. What a mandate Trump has. Anyway, so they threw out their miserable candidate, got a miserable election results, and now their negative opinions hold absolutely no weight, no water. But let's get into some of these staffers. We broke down Susie Wiles' pick as the senior advisor to Trump as chief of staff. It was monumental for a few reasons. Number one, Trump, the same guy who the left allegedly said hates women, made Susie Wiles the first female chief of staff in American history. And two, the best person got the job, regardless of gender or race. Isn't that nice? Isn't it nice to welcome back normal? The Wiles pick exposed also the true women haters over on the left. The idiots at MSNBC are heartbroken to see a strong, successful woman head to the White House. They're already saying she won't last long. Marco Rubio will join Wiles and Trump in the White House. The Florida senator has been picked to serve as Trump's Secretary of State, a role that's been basically vacant due to Antony Blinken's incompetence under Joe Biden. Rubio is a logical pick. However, a lot of real MAGA people don't like that pick. Rubio represents kind of a rhino past, but I get it. He's Hispanic. He's always had Trump's back, I guess, since he stopped running against Trump in 2016. For starters, Trump considered Rubio as a possible running mate before selecting J.D. Vance. Now, I'll tell you, Don Jr. was really instrumental in the J.D. Vance pick. At first, it didn't look good. And when J.D. Vance came to that debate stage and just crushed Tim Walz, J.D. Vance elevated. It also elevated Don Jr.'s status with picking candidates. So I'm guessing that a lot of these popular picks now within the Trump White House going forward are at the behest of Don Jr. And by the way, he aligns closely with many of the more popular MAGA foreign policy beliefs, Rubio I'm talking about, and has historically taken hardline stances against adversaries like China, Iran, and Cuba. This is the best pick. I love this pick. Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller, who is always going to have a prominent role in Trump's next administration, will be the deputy chief of staff to Susie Wiles. Of course, liberals probably hate this because Miller was early and regularly on CNN and MSNBC during the campaign, shooting down the ridiculous things that the talking heads over there would say about our next president. He earned this role just like Trump. He's a no bullshit type of guy. Here he is absolutely shredding the BS reporters about the mess at the southern border.
Children are dead, and you are wasting my time.
No, I am not wasting your time. I'm asking for facts as a journalist.
Do you have any remorse for the dead children? Do you care at all about the dead children?
Absolutely.
Then that's what I want to leave you with, is that Donald Trump will come to office.
I was just asking for figures.
Here's what's going to happen. Donald Trump is going to be elected president, and the migrant gangs are going to be sent home.
Aside from being a friend of mine, and we will bring him on the show when we start bringing in guests, which we're going to do, Stephen Miller is a wonderful pick for deputy chief of staff. I have a belief that Stephen Miller will eventually be Trump's chief of staff. Trump 1.0, Stephen Miller was Trump's speechwriter. And Stephen Miller is just a no BS kind of guy, and he will close that border. Miller will be just one of many people to attack the border issue, although he will do so in more of a social setting. The next border czar, Tom Homan, is already making waves. We broke down the Homan pick yesterday, but he's already telling Democratic senators to get the hell out of the way. Of course, their last border czar was the worst one in American history, Mayorkas. In fact, well, actually, the border czar was Kamala. In fact, we should be thanking anyone tied to Biden's border bloodbath. They all helped Donald Trump win that election. This one, however, ruffled some feathers. Another strong, successful woman, you know, the type of woman that Trump doesn't surround himself with, at least according to Mark Cuban. Kristi Noem will head up the Department of Homeland Security. The South Dakota governor, former now, another once upon a time VP contender, becomes the main piece to an elite team of immigration hardliners who will now focus on restoring our national security. We love Kristi Noem, and boy, does it need some help to restore it from the horrible Swiss cheese border under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the border czar. Between the drug and weapons trafficking and child trafficking, the filthy alien-lined city streets, there truly are areas of America that are unrecognizable thanks to the mess at the border. AOC decided to say the quiet part out loud in her latest post-election rant. She blatantly told us another major way these illegals are impacting our country.
Another area that I thought was really interesting was hearing a lot from undocumented people and, importantly, families of undocumented people who do vote. There's a lot of misinformation about what benefits they do or may not receive, etc., that has generated a certain resentment. And I do find it very interesting how, once again, the tool of us versus them has been drawn even in this situation. I don't think a lot of people, undocumented people, realize that Trump views them as criminals too.
Goodness gracious, she is so lacking up here. First of all, thank you for admitting they vote. We already knew this, but honesty is never a bad thing. And second, yes, Trump views these animals as criminals. So do the rest of us, because that's what they are. The key with all of Trump's cabinet picks so far is that these individuals bring years of success and loyalty to the White House and to Trump. These are all people who've been by Trump's side for years, people who wholeheartedly believe in the vision and who will play their role to ensure the domestic agenda is carried out. Trump's domestic agenda is carried out. And that's right there. This is exactly why the Democrats hate every one of Trump's picks. Trump will undo every wrong that the left has plagued our nation with over the last 4 years and longer since Barack Obama. And his team is growing, and it's a growing list of loyalists will only make Trump that much stronger when he finally retakes the reins January 20th. Okay, a little bit of an offbeat truth bomb, but listen, about 4 weeks ago, I started talking to you guys about betting. And I said I bet every team that plays the New York Giants and plays the New York Jets. Well, in the 4 weeks, I just want to point this out. we're 7-1. We won 7, lost only once in those 4 weeks. I will continue to go forward. But a little side note, one of our directors, MD, told us the Rams were all the rage this year. And so a group of us put some money on the Rams last night, only to get smoked. And here's the point of the truth bomb. Just trust your gut. Don't listen to MD in the control room any longer. But I will tell you this. Keep betting any team that plays the Jets or the Giants. I can almost guarantee a winner for the rest of the season. Truth bomb today, a little offbeat. All right, folks, in 2021, our good friends at Goya launched Goya Cares, a global initiative to protect children and educate children on mental health. Goya Cares is providing schools and community centers with a preventative education curriculum and a free assembly that includes the viewing of a new movie called Press Pause by Goya. Press Pause is intended to raise awareness regarding mental health issues, abuse, and bullying among children, teens in our communities. And it's prevalent, it's prevailing, and it's bad. Press Pause is an educational film following 15-year-old Sofia Rodriguez as she navigates adolescence, self-doubt, and an abusive relationship amid her parents' turbulent divorce, set within the cultural context of her Hispanic family. The film explores her discomfort with unwanted attention from her uncle and the pressures of maintaining a facade of perfection in high school. It introduces the Press Pause campaign promoting kindness and advocacy, highlighted by Sophia leaving a note saying, "You matter," for the bullied peers in her school. The film encourages open family communications about mental health and culminates in Sophia's transformative realization of her right to seek help through the power and empathy and small acts of kindness. Press Pause displays the importance of being proactive in supporting one's community and underscores the critical importance of self-advocacy. And we really appreciate our friends at Goya sponsoring this podcast. Great people. Bobby Donway, founder, good friend, good person. Goya, great food too. All right, somebody call a doctor. MSNBC is dying. Yep, it's true. Allow me to explain. You see, when the voters spoke exactly 1 week ago today, they weren't just voting for a new president, new senators, congressional leaders, judges, governors. Voters were making themselves heard about who they wanted in government to represent them and their ideals. Yes, that's true, but that's not all Americans were voting on. When voters made their voices heard last Tuesday, they're also making it very clear that they do not support the core tenets of American society as they have been jammed down our throats over the last 4 years, dominated by the woke agenda, by DEI permeating every single organism of American leftism. Our schools were hijacked by perversion and sexualized propaganda on the left. Even the likes of Bill Maher admits it, and panel after panel on CNN and NBC have poured over the facts as they are. The America that the left had insisted on just doesn't fly with more than half of the country anymore. That's what November 5th was all about. But the red thread throughout all of it is our press, our media. The legacy media have become the mouthpiece for the leftist campaign to turn the republic into a downtrodden, socialist, miserable dystopian society instead. After all, the media willingly deployed the Russia disinformation narrative until Brian Stelter's face turned blue. The media tried to hammer home that Donald Trump was a threat to democracy when they clearly knew that was fake. The media threw away any semblance of trust the American people had left in them in the name of supporting the leftist machine. One of the worst and most obvious culprits, MSNBC, of course, and since Election Day, the American people have spoken about that too. They voted. If votes are views, and they are, votes equal views in media, then MSNBC is the biggest loser of all at the moment. Since President Trump's resounding win between Wednesday, October 30th versus Friday, November 8th, so 3 days after the presidential election, MSNBC ratings have dropped October 31st versus November 8th. Morning Joe is down 39.6%. Let's round it out to an even 40%. Andrea Mitchell down 40%. Ari Melber down 50%. Joyless Joy Reid out down 55%. And Lawrence O'Donnell, you loser, you're the biggest loser of all. Well, no, almost the biggest loser of all. Lawrence O'Donnell down 60%. And my ex-friend, Stephanie Rule, who thinks she knows a lot about a lot, knows nothing about nothing, down 67%. The first hour of Morning Joe's first hour, Scarborough, was down a whopping 40%. Andrea Mitchell, again, 40%. Now look, there's a chance that liberals were too busy crying and shaving off their hair to watch more coverage of their indisputable loss to the MAGA movement. But that is a massive, massive sell-off of viewers. I mean, there's still news watch, I guess. Some people watching for news. But other things happened in the world, too, to concern the left. Conflicts, economy. I mean, the Fed cut interest rates on Thursday. Zero interest in the news at all, apparently. Well, that's because their viewers never actually tune in to the likes of MSNBC for actual news. That much is now abundantly clear. No, lefties checked in with the insanity of Joy Reid saying things like this.
Have you noticed how sharply the polls have shifted in Trump's favor over the last couple weeks? With these claims that Trump is surging with Black and Latino voters and leading in every single swing state, according to secret internal polls, despite all the Hitler talk. Yes, this race will be far too close. Because unfortunately, we do have a fascist groundswell in parts of this country, mainly among white men, let's be clear, but in small pockets among Black and brown men, too.
Oopsies. Sorry, Joy Reid. Stage 4 of Trump derangement syndrome apparently means calling men of every single color a fascist simply for voting for a better America. But that's what the cult needed. They need to hear that going into the election. How else could they explain why it wasn't just white men who were veering towards voting for Trump? Let's just say they're fascist, right? Never mind that it makes zero sense whatsoever. Remember, in a cult, you don't have to tell the truth. You only have to say what the members of your cult want to hear. Like Joe Scarborough saying things like this.
He will do, he will get away with, he will imprison, he will execute whoever he's allowed to imprison, execute, drive from the country. Just look at his past. It's not really hard to read.
Well, Joe, if that were true, you're in trouble. But it's not true. It was just hyperbole. It was rhetoric trying to get people to vote against Trump. Joe says, look at Trump's past. Which past is he referring to exactly, Joe? Joe sounds burdened by what has been, except it hasn't been. That doesn't matter to the cult, though. They just say crap because that's the leftist machine hard at work, using state television, formerly journalists, to sell their message. Lies, lies, and more lies. The MAGA movement is a fascist movement, they say. Trump is Hitler and will arrest us all or kill us, they said. Women's rights are dead as we know it if Trump gets elected, they said. When you're a part of a cult, you only want to hear what you want to hear. The legacy media has turned into nothing more than that, delivering what they cultists want to hear. They know it. The viewers know it. It's a full-blown cult filled with all these things. These are cults. These are tools of propaganda to retain power and control. And the left in America lapped it all up. Now we're seeing a pathetic attempt by some, clearly not all, to loosen the leftist propaganda a bit. Joe Scarborough somehow suddenly smells blood in the water. Otherwise, how do you explain this about face?
And I'm not just saying this the day after the election. I've been saying this for years. This is not a hard call. You can show compassion and you can show grace. And as the Republican governor of Utah said, let's figure out a way to do this. But one way we don't do this is by allowing men who transition after puberty competing against young girls.
Oh, I see, Joe. Now this woke idea, this woke agenda that you so much ascribe to, you sign your name at the bottom of the woke agenda. Now it's too much. Now you liberal D-bag. Now you don't want men and women's sports because a week ago in an hour, you did. Too little, too late, Joe. Sorry, Joe, but you already left the winning and rational side once before. You used to be a Republican, remember? And you joined the dark side. Hard to go back after you repeatedly insisted that Donald Trump is Hitler. You said it on your show time again. He'll imprison you. He'll kill you. Knowing full well that was the farthest from the truth. You can't just dip your toe in that, Joe Scarborough. Joe, you've been committed to your new part. And by doing so, you've been part of a mass disservice to the country and to your industry, to our industry, journalism. But it doesn't matter because, as always, the stronger minds in our society have prevailed, as they always do, in the face of blatant socialized media, in the face of the fact that legacy media has removed any of the intended integrity and the very core of the First Amendment, the First Amendment, the freedom of press in the First Amendment. That means something, by the way, Joe. When that was written, it was intended to protect the media so that we could report the truth without injury to our reputations, our jobs, our lives. It's called holding truth to power. The only way you can do that and be protected from being fired for it or canceled for it is because it's protected in the First Amendment. That mattered to the founding fathers. That mattered to the industry once upon a time, in fact. And yet now we can't find a living, breathing organism in that industry that still upholds that concept, the First Amendment concept, that the press fights to get their truth, to deliver truth and facts to the American people. Now it's become a vehicle for delivering a clear agenda on the left. You can forget the moment the legacy media put out a truthful poll about how Joe Biden was losing favorability or how dismal the economy was. Joe would scold the media, Scarborough would scold the media. Actually, both of them. Joe Biden would scold the media. Scarborough would scold his counterparts for pointing out facts that Joe Biden was losing his facilities. Why are you reporting that, they said. Look at the other polls, they said. But don't worry, they quickly retreated following orders and helping the Democrat Party cover up his dementia, his failing economy, his dwindling poll numbers. They all fell in line. NBC fell in line. Broadcast media fell in line. NBC, ABC, CBS, they all fell in line because the leftist machine told them to. Really? Watch.
For years now, he's cogent. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically.
Well, by the way, if you were counting, that was 3 cogents in about 6 seconds. But more importantly, how revolting is it to watch someone who thinks himself is supposedly a journalist actually saying in March of this year that Biden is the best he's ever been. Falling, mumbling, calling out dead people, falling asleep, and drooling in meetings with foreign members of state. None of those videos available to anyone on every single platform. None of that was enough to push Joe out of a cult mode. How is this man still on the air? How are any of them still on the air? Well, the answer to that, given some of the best post-election ratings may be, not for very long, hopefully. I mean, down 67, Joy Reid, you're down 50%, 60%. Lawrence O'Donnell. Stephanie, you don't rule, down 70%. Wow. I believe history will show us later just how disgusting and corrupt it all really was. Just as we've seen emails that prove that the Biden administration worked with big tech to censor stories that didn't suit them. We will see more and more stories like the ones unveiled at CBS by Catherine Herridge.
When I was laid off in February, an incident reinforced in my mind the importance of protecting confidential sources. CBS News locked me out of the building and seized hundreds of pages of my reporting files, including confidential source information. Multiple sources said they were concerned that by working with me to expose government corruption and misconduct, they would be identified and exposed.
Catherine Herridge, what a wonderful reporter, fired by CBS because she opened the books, because she was honest. That's exactly what the First Amendment was there to protect. Now, hopefully, Elon Musk, who I understand is doing a deal with her to bring honesty and truth to journalism on X. Hopefully. That hearing, by the way, on Capitol Hill took place in April of this year. Catherine Herridge, under oath, says that CBS fired her and took her files, including confidential testimony. That hearing quickly lost attention by big media. And apparently CBS learned nothing at all, doctoring an interview with Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes a couple of weeks ago and showing little to no remorse at all, refusing to reveal the full transcript. Not only is the legacy media being exposed repeatedly, but repeatedly they also show zero remorse when they get caught and have no interest in changing a damn thing about the way they do business. A very recent proof. Just watch blatant media hypocrisy in action to this very day.
He is justifying the idea that the president can order the Justice Department to investigate and prosecute specific cases. So he's laying the legal groundwork. Now, the thing about that is that would violate 5 decades of norms post-Watergate, which said that the Justice Department should be independent from the president.
Oh, so wait a minute. So now we believe the Department of Justice should be independent from the White House and the president? Now? Now? Did someone let Joe Biden know that? Are we supposed to just pretend the last 4 years didn't happen? Erase the raid on Mar-a-Lago from our minds? The lawfare that this country was under, Donald Trump was under, that we were probably under? See, we are not members of the leftist machine and its cult, so we know otherwise. They are trying to unravel years of damage. They're counting on Americans to forget. But we cannot, and we will not. The damage is done, folks. They've done it to themselves. And as proof, this little ditty, this is awesome. Yesterday, Chris Wallace of, I work for Fox, but I'm wildly liberal, pretending to be conservative. Chris Wallace told the Daily Beast that he will quit CNN and walk away from his 7-figure salary at CNN and instead go into independent streaming or podcasting. Says that Joe Rogan is his inspiration. Chris Wallace, I work at Fox. I'm conservative, but he's really liberal. Gets hired by CNN, can't find an audience at CNN, gets fired, now says podcasting is a way to go for him. He's well ahead of the game, he says. He's 75 years old. Well, thanks, Chris, but no thanks. We don't need this new and brave world of independent media, digital independent media, poisoned by the likes of you, Chris Wallace, who stands for nothing and has fed into the leftist machine willingly your entire career. Now that he sees it all falling apart, Wallace wants to demean it. As Elon Musk said after President Trump's massive win, we, you and I, we're all the world's journalists now. You, me, all of us. We're now responsible for delivering and receiving the truth moving forward. Welcome to the new world, folks. We got a lot of work to do, and no thank you to Chris Wallace. All right, folks, before we go, a powerful message from a woman to all of the deranged liberal maniacs who thought shaving their heads is making some sort of difference in the real world.
I'm not going to keep quiet anymore because I just saw the most heartbreaking video. To all the women who decided to shave their head in support of this 4B movement, stop it. And not stop it because you can't do what you want or have freedom to do what you want, but you're being offensive. You're selfish. I just saw a woman post a video of her little girl, couldn't have been more than 5 years old, with cancer, with a bald head, saying that she's held her daughter numerous nights because her daughter was crying because when she lost her hair, she didn't feel beautiful anymore. So basically what you're saying is you're trying to make yourself unattractive by shaving your head because you don't like the president that was elected. Do you hear yourselves and see yourselves? Like, enough is enough. Grow up. Your entitlement is disgusting. There's actually women around the world that are oppressed. You live in the freest country, and no matter what you think, you haven't lost one right.
We couldn't have said it better. That woman said it all. Speaks volumes to those assholes who are shaving their heads because they don't like the result of an election when there's so many people struggling, trying to survive, losing their hair. That's it, folks. Subscribe. Make sure you hit subscribe on anywhere you watch the show or listen to the show. Appreciate your time. We'll see you again tomorrow. Hopefully my voice is a little better tomorrow. Bolling out for today.